Today, we are traveling to South Korea to explore one of the most misunderstood and dangerous entities in their folklore. While many people think of Korean horror as long haired ghosts or water spirits, there is a much older trickster presence that resides in the mountains and abandoned houses, the Dokkaebi. These aren't your typical Western goblins. They are powerful nature spirits formed from objects stained with human blood or deep human affection. And there is one specific rule about them that, if broken, guarantees you will never be alone again. Stay with me, because after we go through these three terrifying accounts, I'm going to explain the deep cultural origin of these creatures and why locals still leave buckwheat jelly out on certain nights to keep them at bay. Our first story takes place in the foggy outskirts of Incheon, near a redevelopment zone where the old city meets the new. Min-jun was a site manager for a construction company tasked with clearing out a cluster of abandoned hanok houses, traditional Korean homes that had stood since the Japanese occupation. It was grueling work. The machinery was constantly breaking down, and the workers were on edge. There was a specific corner of the lot, near an old persimmon tree, where the excavators would just stall every single time. One rainy Tuesday evening, everyone had packed up, but Min-jun stayed behind to secure the perimeter. As he walked past the persimmon tree, he saw something glinting in the mud. It wasn't trash. He crouched down and pulled it out. It was an old, heavy brass spoon, the kind used in ancestral rites, but it was twisted and stained with a dark, reddish rust that looked suspiciously like dried blood. Against his better judgment, and perhaps driven by a strange compulsion, he put the spoon in his pocket. He thought it might be a valuable antique. He took it back to his small studio apartment in the city. He washed it, but the red stain wouldn't come off. That night, he placed it on his kitchen counter and went to sleep. At 3 a.m., Min-jun woke up. The air in his apartment was heavy, smelling of damp earth and rotting wood, a smell that shouldn't exist in a high-rise concrete building. Then he heard it, a metallic scraping sound. Scrape, scrape, scrape. It was coming from the kitchen. He grabbed a baseball bat and crept into the hallway. The kitchen light flickered. Standing by the counter was a shadow. It wasn't a person. It was too broad, too hulking. It looked like a man wearing thick, ragged furs, but its skin was the color of a bruise. The figure was holding the brass spoon, scraping it against the granite countertop with impossible force. Min-jun froze. The thing stopped scraping. It didn't turn around. Instead, a deep, guttural voice filled the room, sounding like stones grinding together. It said, "You took my leg. Give me yours." Min-jun blinked, and the figure was gone, but the spoon was bent completely in half. Over the next week, Min-jun's life unraveled. He would wake up with massive bruises on his left leg, as if he had been kicked by a horse. His bank account suddenly received a deposit of 3 million won from an unknown source, but the next day his car engine exploded, costing exactly that amount to fix. The entity was playing with him, giving him luck, then taking it away with interest. The climax happened 7 days after he found the spoon. He was sleeping when he felt a crushing weight on his chest. He opened his eyes to see the bruised, hulking face, inches from his own. The smell of wet dog and copper was overpowering. The Dokkaebi grinned, revealing jagged teeth. It challenged him to a wrestling match, a traditional Sarium match. In his paralyzed state, Min Jun remembered a story his grandmother told him. You never wrestle a Dokkaebi on the right side. You must hook the left leg. In his mind, he visualized hooking the creature's left leg. The pressure instantly vanished. Min Jun gasped for air, sitting up in an empty room. He ran to the kitchen, grabbed the bent spoon, drove all the way back to the construction site in the middle of the night, and buried it back under the persimmon tree. He quit his job the next day. He says his left leg still aches whenever it rains, a permanent reminder of the thing he invited home. That was just a case of disturbing a resting object. But this next story comes from a woman named Ji-U, who encountered something far more malicious while hiking in the Jiri mountain range. This is a story about what happens when you mock the locals. Ji-U was an avid hiker and a bit of a skeptic. She was vlogging her trip along a less traveled trail known for its shamanistic shrines. Along the path, she noticed piles of stones and old, rotting brooms tied with colored ribbons leaning against trees. To the locals, these were sacred discard spots for objects that had served their purpose, preventing them from turning into Dokkaebi. Ji-U, thinking it would make for good content, picked up one of the old brooms and jokingly pretended to sweep the forest floor, making a comment to the camera about cleaning up nature. She laughed, tossed the broom aside, and kept hiking. The sun began to set faster than she anticipated. The fog rolled in, thick and white, obscuring the trail markers. Ji-U realized she was lost. The silence of the mountain was absolute. No birds, no wind, just the sound of her own breathing. Then she heard drumming. It was the rhythmic beat of a jangu, a traditional hourglass drum. Dum, kung, dum, kung. It sounded festive, like a village celebration. Thinking she had found a temple or a house, she followed the sound. She emerged into a small clearing she didn't recognize. In the center sat a small thatched roof hut with a warm orange glow coming from the paper windows. Shadows danced against the paper, looking like people drinking and laughing. Relieved, Ji-U approached the door and called out. The drumming stopped instantly. The door slid open. Standing there wasn't a monk or a villager. It was a man, but his proportions were wrong. His arms hung down past his knees, and he wore traditional white hanbok that was filthy and torn. He smiled, and his eyes were just empty black sockets. "A guest," he rasped. "We love guests who like to clean." Ji-U tried to back away, but her legs wouldn't move. It felt like the roots of the trees had wrapped around her ankles. The man stepped out, and behind him, she saw the room was empty. No people, no drums, just a pile of old rotting brooms standing upright, swaying as if they were alive. The man handed her a bowl. "Drink, it is buckwheat jelly, your favorite." Ji-U was terrified, but she felt a psychic compulsion to take the bowl. It looked like delicious jelly. She ate it, famished. It was the best thing she had ever tasted. The man laughed, a sound that echoed like thunder. "Good, now you belong to the household." She blacked out. Ji-U woke up the next morning, lying in a ditch 3 miles from the trail. Her mouth was filled with dirt and dry leaves, the jelly she had eaten. Her camera was gone. But the most terrifying part was what she found in her backpack. It was stuffed full of dead crows. She made it back to civilization, but the story doesn't end there. Since that trip, Ji-U cannot own a broom. If she buys one, she wakes up in the middle of the night to find it standing upright in the center of her bedroom, facing her bed. She's moved 3 times. The brooms always find a way to stand up. She says she can still hear the drumming sometimes, coming from inside her closet. Our final story is the most disturbing because it hasn't ended. It was sent to me by a university student in Seoul named Tai Hyung, and he claims he is writing this as a warning because he is running out of time. Tae Hyung was struggling with his finals. He was desperate. He heard a rumor on a dark web forum about a ritual to summon a Dokkaebi of wealth. The ritual required a quiet room, a bowl of buckwheat jelly, and a drop of your own blood mixed into the food. You invite the entity in, ask for success, and promise to share your fortune. It sounded like an urban legend, but desperation makes people do foolish things. Tae Hyung performed the ritual in his one-room office-tel. He mixed the blood, set the bowl by the window, and whispered the invitation. Nothing happened. He felt foolish and went to sleep. The next morning, the bowl was empty. Not just empty, licked clean. Over the next month, Tae Hyung's life became perfect. He aced his exams with answers that seemed to just pop into his head. He found a wallet with cash and no ID. He even won a small lottery. He was ecstatic. He thought he had cheated the system. But the Dokkaebi is a creature of equivalent exchange, and they do not understand human limits. It started with the knocking, soft taps inside his walls. Then, his things began to rearrange themselves. He would come home to find his books stacked in impossible spirals, reaching the ceiling. His clothes would be tied into intricate knots that took hours to undo. Then came the demand. One night, he woke up to find writing on his bathroom mirror. It wasn't written in marker or lipstick. It was scratched into the glass. More jelly, more blood. Tae Hyung provided it. He cut his finger and offered another bowl. The activity settled down. But a week later, the scratching returned, deeper this time. More. He gave more. But the demand increased. The luck turned into possessiveness. If Tae Hyung tried to leave his apartment to see friends, the door would jam. If he talked to a girl on the phone, the line would fill with static and that deep, grinding laughter. The entity wanted him all to itself. The turning point was last week. Tae Hyung woke up and couldn't move. Hovering above him was a dark, swirling mass of shadow that smelled of old copper and ozone. It whispered into his ear, "You are the vessel now. We are one." Tae Hyung tried to leave Seoul. He got on a train to Busan to stay with his parents. Halfway there, he looked at his reflection in the dark train window. His reflection wasn't moving. It was smiling at him. A wide, jagged smile that wasn't his own. And then, his reflection winked. He is currently in a motel in Busan. He says he can't go to his parents' house because he knows he will bring it with him. He says the smell of damp earth is filling the motel room as he types this. He ended his email with a sentence that chills me to the bone. He wrote, "It knows I'm telling you this. It likes the attention. It says that by reading this, you are acknowledging it too. It says, hello." So, what exactly are we dealing with here? In Korean folklore, the Dokkaebi are not ghosts of the dead. They are spiritual possessions of inanimate objects. When a broom, a poker, or a tool is used for many years and absorbs human sweat, blood, and emotion, it gains a soul. But because they are born from objects, they lack human morality. They are chaotic. They love wrestling, drinking, and playing pranks. The buckwheat jelly mentioned in the stories is their favorite offering, known as memulmuk. The danger lies in their attachment. Once a Dokkaebi takes a liking to a human, their friendship can be destructive. They don't understand that their strength hurts us, or that their pranks can ruin lives. The wealth they bring is often stolen from somewhere else, creating a karmic debt the human has to pay. From a rational perspective, Many of these experiences can be attributed to the psychological stress of the victims. Minjun was overworked at a dangerous construction site. The Dokkaebi could have been a manifestation of his physical exhaustion and the toxic fumes often found in old demolition zones. Ji-U was dehydrated and lost in the mountains. Hypothermia and panic can cause vivid hallucinations, including the sensation of eating dirt. And Taehyung? The pressure of academic success in Korea is immense. The ritual likely triggered a psychotic break or severe obsessive-compulsive disorder, where he projects his internal guilt and anxiety onto an external entity. But then again, that doesn't explain the physical evidence. The bent brass spoon, the backpack full of crows, the scratches on the mirror. What do you think happened? Is Taehyung suffering from a mental breakdown? Or has he truly invited a goblin into his life that is now watching us through this screen? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe for more true ghost stories from across Asia.